All right, so we're back at it. This time I'm gonna talk about pinch. Pinching is anything that you literally pinch out with your fingers. You're not using tools or rolling out a slab or rolling coils. It's just pinching it out. When you made your faces, this was pinching, right? These are called pinch pots because you're pinching, right? So you could be pinching anything. A lot of artists do a lot of different pinching to like sculpt. You know, it's a classic form of working, obviously, because we're using this malleable clay and you've got this really cool surface, right? So it could be something like, you know, making some sort of a pinch design. Maybe I'll, you know, again, I'm gonna have to score a little bit if I'm gonna stick something like that on here. So I'm gonna score there and score this. Maybe I'll mush him right on there, right? So I've already like pinched, you know, there's no rules again. So if I wanted to, I could end up, you know, and again, remember, I'm a crazy artist, so I make some funky decisions along the way that end up being playful, but I've got this really cool shape that maybe I can end up changing later into something. These shapes right here that I'm calling pinched, they're like scales almost, right? So again, background, scored. I'm gonna score all in these little nooks and crannies. I just find it smarter to do right now in the beginning than like forgetting or halfway through being like, I have to score, and you know, I just can then start going. So I've got this object right here. So earlier how I made these little scales, and by the way, I would call that only partially done. I just rolled out a little ball here, right? And I'm just kind of gonna pinch, right? And I'm pinching. I'm gonna pinch that in and let's give it a smear. Second one, pinch it in. So I can end up with these almost like these little tree, you know, natural forms that look like almost like tree mushrooms that you find in the forest. So I pinch, kind of bring them in. So scales, so I start with the far side and move in towards myself. So as I smear, right, pinch that out a little bit, and as I smear this down and go to the next one, I'm actually hiding my smeared lines. And that being said, I might want to score, especially if my clay gets a little bit drier along the way. So I'm doing these pretty big. Again, I just kind of make these cool little shapes, tuck it under there. You know, I could go down the line, and I've pinched out these like beautiful, interesting forms that are gonna be more natural. Just like this guy right in here. And I did not finish him because I was gonna finish him in front of you guys. So if I score in there, get my fingers wet, apply a little bit of that clay glue slip. These ones I was making a little bit flatter, like fish scales earlier today. Flip them up. And this is like how I like to work sometimes. I like these little like natural things. I'll do 2 more. I'll do a pretty big one here so I can fill up the space. And again, this could be just like the start of a piece. And again, double again. Right now, it's still pretty rough. So if I take my knife, right, clean that edge up real nice, right, and maybe dip this in water. Because if you can see right now, that's pretty rough still, right? So I might want to clean that up with a wet finger. We always joke around, we say like, you know, sandpaper to wood is like wet, you know, a wet tool to clay, because it really just smooths everything out, gets it all like sort of funkied up. You know, I can hide my background a little bit. Now, one thing that I haven't talked about yet, and because this is a pretty quick one, I had it going pretty quick. Let's say I have all this background and I wanted to add some coils, or I wanted to add something else. One fun way to add some details or add some stuff is taking dry clay and just kind of breaking it up. Right? So I end up with this sort of, put my pressure down, and I end up with this sort of like powder rough kind of gnarliness, right? Rockiness, I like to call it. If I kind of put some thick slip on there and make sure it's plenty gooey, right? I'm gonna wipe my hand off, and I'm gonna take this dry stuff and I'm just gonna sprinkle it on there and throw those little guys right in there. This is a fun way, and I wouldn't call this any of these processes, but it's a cool way to get some sort of natural rocky texture. So imagine that on the side of a pot. And all of this stuff is like applicable to like any kind of a sculpture you would make. So these, in a sense, are test tiles, right? We're testing out some different surface designs and surface treatments. Maybe I'll try and mush those in and make sure I've got good connection. I could, you know, you can tell it's really, I'm making some good connection. So it's sticking right now. Some of it's gonna come off by the time it dries, but I've got this cool kind of rough, gnarly texture now for the background. So I love that variety of smooth versus rough. I could do that, you know, in this background in here, I could mush some more up. I said that originally because I noticed, I don't know, this is a cool piece, but I think it needs a little more. So I might kind of mix some stuff in here to give it a little bit more of a natural quality. And I would have put slip on here first, and maybe I wouldn't have these bigger pieces, but this is a fun way to like, kind of like fill in some negative space, make it look cool, get a little more natural. It's a little more rough, a little more of a concrete edge. So these are pinched, right? Some fun pinch pieces. We'll be back in a few with another process.